Government-mandated air conditioning. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because we need to have a look at this article from 9 News discussing government-mandated air conditioning. Calls to mandate air conditioning in rental properties. Leaves renters and the sector divided. Now, I grew up in Victoria, at least until grade 4, and then we moved to Queensland. In Victoria, we had air conditioning. We had it installed in our house. We also had a wall-mounted gas heating system. Because there the temperature fluctuated so much, you really needed it. Here in Queensland, we've never really had it. My parents were too cheap, and now I'm continuing that tradition of being too cheap for my children. Right now I live in a 100-year-old Queenslander, and if we want to cool down, you open the windows, open the doors, turn the fans on, and let the breeze come through. It's not that often when it becomes really hot and uncomfortable. There's a few days, but the problem is, once you start putting air conditioning in, you're going to run it when you really don't need it, just because it's convenient. It's a little bit more comfortable. So I'm really resisting the urge. I keep telling the kids, "Oh, we'll get it once the renovation's finished, and we'll see. We'll see." But here's another thing: if you're living in air-conditioned housing, you never go outside. We've got neighbours; we hardly ever see them outside. Their children, they've grown up now, but years ago they were never playing in the yard. You never hear them outside playing because they'd always be inside air conditioning. It's a bit of a first world problem, honestly. So, yeah, I guess it's something I really can't relate to. You don't really need it. You can survive without air conditioning, okay? It is a luxury. It really is. So why is the government, by mandating this in every rental property, it's going to be another cost for the landlords, and it's going to drive up the cost of rents. All of this stuff, all of these bullshit rules just drive up the cost of rent. We've got issues with housing affordability. Rent is going through the bloody moon. I mean, let me bring that up. Do I have the rental prices here? Hang on. Brisbane rents. We'll bring this up here. I'll go full screen. What are we looking at there? Okay, 3-bedder in Brisbane is now $510. Not that long ago, it was around $400. Everyone. Okay? You'll just drive up rent. You'll drive up rent if you bring these mandates in. Do people not get this? Do the people who call for government intervention not get this? Oh, Sally pensioner or such and such poor person needs their air conditioning. It's going to cost even more as well when you get rid of all of the fossil fuels, and we're running out of these solar panels that all start breaking. But anyway, so there are calls to make air conditioning mandatory in Australian rental properties as renters cook inside unlivable and sweltering homes. Then you go outside if it's too bloody hot in the house, or you go buy a fan. Or here's a solution. Okay? You know what? I'm going to jump over here and explain this one. Now, this may be hard for some people to hear. What you do is you get off your fat ass, you go to Bunnings, and then you go inside and you buy one of these portable air conditioners, and you pay the money for it out of your own pocket, and you stick it in the corner of your room. Sure, it's not the most efficient. Sure, it's going to cost you more power. But then it's your choice. Then it's not the government mandating an additional cost to housing. Do people not get this? That every time you put another rule in place, another cost, another increase, that it just drives everything up. Do they not get it? What's going on here? Anyway, let's get back to this. However, calls to mandate air conditioners have left sectors and renters divided, with unaffordability, heightened costs and environmental impacts flagged as reasons why it should be kept an optional extra. According to the Residential Tenancies Act, rental properties must have a fixed heater in good working order in the main living area. A fixed heater? Wow, I'm thinking back, the place we rented in Kangaroo Point certainly didn't have one of those. However, air conditioning remains an optional feature, despite many renters baking inside their homes during the hot summer months. Well, maybe you don't stay in your home. You go out. You go to the beach. You go to South Bank. You go to come on. Tori22 from Melbourne told 9news.com.au she had to go to the library to work from home as her townhouse in the city's inner north would climb to suffocating temperatures on hot days. Okay, now what this is telling me, this is not a air conditioning issue. This is actually an architectural design issue. I bet you this is the trend that you've got so many of these new apartments or townhouses that don't even have the capacity to open cross ventilation. Now, here in my little studio at the back of the house, I've got a window over there, and behind my computers, I can actually open another window here. This is a tiny little studio that the previous owner built on the back of the house. Through that door is the laundry, and then I walk outside, upstairs to when there were stairs, to the proper house. He built this to play music, and he ended up living here as he divorced his wife. But it has cross ventilation. I can open up that side, I can open up that side, and get a nice breeze going through the space. You'll find in a lot of buildings that you want to design to be able to open up two windows on them. In our house that we're designing, our renovation, we're going to have cross ventilation in two of the bedrooms on the ground, but the two in the middle we won't. So what you do, you put a little above the door, you put some vents there so the air can go through, even just the timber lattice or something, if you want to get air flowing through. Now, you'll see a lot of the modern apartments, they've got these bullshit media rooms that don't even have windows, and they will get sweltering hot. Or these shotgun apartments that only open to one side, so you can't really get a breeze going through it. You can't get cross ventilation. That's what you want. You want airflow from one side of a building to another. You don't want air conditioning. This is just going to make matters much, much worse. So, she asked her property manager about the possibility of getting air conditioning installed. The reply she received was anything but helpful. Yeah, I mean, who cares? I was told to open up the windows. Yeah. But even if you open the windows, it doesn't make much difference. You're just letting in hot air. Well, why don't you go to Bunnings, buy yourself a portable air conditioner, $1,000, stick it in the corner, put a pipe in there, and start air conditioning the space. What about you do that? There you go. There's an option. Also, we live on a main road, so opening the windows also lets in a lot of traffic noise, which makes sleeping and working very hard. With no other solution, Tori has succumbed to going to the library to get away from the heat when working on hot days. What's wrong with that? Is this just showing you how bloody weak and entitled we're getting as a civilization? Oh, I've got no air conditioning. Woe is me. I've got to go to the library to do some work. Oh no, it's the end of the world. That's usually a good thing. You want to get out of your living space to go somewhere else to work. It should be happy you've got access to that facility. You're a renter. You're not paying any rates. So, it is like an oven in here on 30-degree plus days. It's unbearable. You can't stay inside. If you're paying for a house you can't comfortably live in, surely your rent should be rebated in some form or air conditioning should be mandatory. Such a sense of bloody entitlement. 30-plus degree day. Come on. Toughen up. However, not everyone agrees, with former president of the Real Estate Institute of Victoria, Lee Calnan, warning a state like Victoria did not have the climate to mandate air conditioning, and it would jack up costs for tenants and landlords. I don't believe air conditioning should be a minimum requirement or a mandatory requirement for Victorian properties. Okay, so this is why they have the heaters. See, this is the thing. I grew up in Victoria. We had air conditioning. My parents and I moved to Queensland. We didn't get air conditioning. We just don't have the climate for it. To mandate the installation of air conditioning would create not only affordability challenges for renters, but ultimately any additional alteration or improvements that are made to rental properties will be paid by the increase in rent. But the consumer in the property running the air conditioning is not going to be a cheap experience for them. But yeah, it's going to cost more. There are a lot of people doing it extremely tough at the moment, both renters and investors. Moria Tiratha, who lives in a share house in Brunswick, Melbourne, in the north, believes if air conditioning was mandatory, it would cause drastic environmental impacts. Nah, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. Not as much as you realize. Most of what we do isn't going to cause drastic environmental impacts. Even if all of the carbon emissions that Australia released here, as said by Finkel, if carbon emissions in the world would have dropped by 1.3%, what impact would it have on the world? Absolutely nothing. Okay, Australians, we can't do anything about it. So don't worry. Don't get your knickers in a twist, everyone. The environmental impact that humanity is having on the planet, it can all get undone, or any attempts to mitigate it can get undone in a second if a volcano explodes. So you've got to look at long-term technological solutions, and they will come. It's a slow-moving problem, but you're going to impact that if you don't have cheap, reliable power for people. Where are we headed? Unreliable, expensive power. But anyway, back to this. While she admits it would be nice to have on hot days, she did not think it was vital. It's only when it's consecutively over 30 degrees, the house gets a bit hot and stays hot, she said. But it's manageable, as I don't really work from home or have to sit in the hot house for a long period of time. It would be a real nice treat to have, but if everyone had air cons in their rentals, the environmental impact would be pretty drastic as well. Air conditioning hikes up the price of rentals from anywhere between $10 a week to $50 a week, depending on the type of unit installed. Miss Callan said while she did not believe it was viable or feasible for air conditioning to be mandated in the Victorian market, she said there would be a stronger condition for it to be in states like Queensland, where there are more hot days than cool ones. And here I am, a Queenslander, watching this thinking, this is the stupidest thing in the world. The vast majority of rental properties in the private rental sector don't have air conditioning, she added. Air conditioning has only been a trend for the last 5 to 10 years. Queensland Greens. Oh, here we go. Bloody Jonathan. On Facebook said he believed if a house became unlivable due to the heat, the tenant's rent should be waived for a week. This guy, I'm not really a fan of him. I mean, I've spoken about a lot of his ideas in the past. In a city ward, the Gabba, you've got at least 1.5, maybe 2 for some properties, $1 million houses in the Gabba. That's an expensive area there. It's in a city area. And then he's leading protests to stop low-cost housing out in Ipswich. Okay, the stereotypical champagne-sipping inner-city socialist trying to push their agenda onto other people is a walking stereotype. If a house becomes so hot it is no longer comfortable to live in, landlords should be waived a tenant's rent for the week, he wrote. Low-income tenants worry that if they request these basic improvements, their lease might not be renewed or their rent might go up. Yeah, well, it's not a basic improvement, it's an air conditioning system. If you're requesting it and they say, sure, but I'm going to put your rent up, isn't that fair? So they quietly put up with substandard housing conditions that wealthier people would be outraged about and wouldn't tolerate even for a few hours. No, probably just your lot, honestly, Jonathan. Probably just your lot. Your inner city snobby pricks, to be honest. Other people will just put up with it because it's a first world problem. And a few days a year, I know you're a bit sweaty. Well, what you do is, here's what you do. And it's hard. You go, take the kids, you go to the shopping center, you buy a bag of icy balls, and you eat them, okay? You eat them. Or here's something even more novel. You go, if you got a yard, you get the sprinkler out, and you jump through the sprinkler, when it's hot. That's something they can do. Or what, if you don't have a yard, well, there's lots of public pools. You can even go to Orion, out near Ipswich. They've got this fantastic pool near the shopping center. You can go there with the whole family. Don't have to spend a cent. Use the facilities there. Go to South Bank as well. Sure, you got to pay for parking, but still, don't worry. I mean, come on. What's going on here? Okay? This is going to drive up costs. This is pissing me off. Mr. Siri also pointed to the fact that Queensland landlords are not required to install ceiling fans or blinds, even when the temperature inside a house is climbing well above 35 degrees. Victorian Council of Social Services Chief Executive Emma King said the state government should absolutely make air conditioners and high-quality insulation mandatory in rental properties. Okay, we already have insulation mandatory in the building code. Do you want them to upgrade existing properties to new standards? Could you imagine the cost that is going to incur? These people don't give a shit. They don't realize. If you look at the embodied energy of this insulation, the building won't last long enough for the embodied energy to be offset for the cost of installing it. And now you want to retrofit these buildings. And then you complain about housing getting more expensive. I know these are the Greens. I know they're the Greens. They don't understand things. Probably all civil servants never worked a real job. It's not good enough that Victorians are sweltering in poorly insulated rentals, getting sick, and sometimes even dying. Oh, come on. Not everybody experiences the heat equally. Extreme heat is known to kill more Australians than any other form of natural disaster, and people experiencing disadvantages are hit the hardest, Miss King said. Window coverings will become mandatory in Victorian rental from March 29th this year, as well as a raft of other reforms. Ms. Callanan said if a mandate was introduced into the private rental markets, the same had to apply to social housing sector. You can't make a rule just for the private sector. It would have to be across for all housing. Let's have a talk about this. It's going to drive up the costs. This will just drive up the cost of rental accommodation. Every one of these rules and things that you put in place makes it more expensive. Here's a shocker. Here's a shocking truth bomb. Okay. For the majority of human civilization, we've not had air conditioning. I wonder how we survived then. And behind me, I've got this thing, a pedestal fan, that you all make fun of me. You all make fun of me for not having the cover on. It's not turned on at the moment. But that's one way to get air moving in a space. Really, this should be a design issue. We need to look at the architectural design of some of these spaces to promote cross-ventilation. So then you can use fans or you can do other ways to address these living conditions. A mandate for air conditioning is just going to exacerbate the problems that you have there. Then people will have air conditioning, but power will get so expensive they won't be able to afford to use it, but their rent will already be increased to cover the cost of installing and maintaining that air conditioning. Because you know what will happen next? Next it'll be, oh no, there's health issues with those air conditioning filters, so landlords have to pay for a third party to come in and maintain it and check it every quarter. So then you got, like, when we had a commercial premises, you got some idiot coming in. You have to pay for them to clean your bloody air filter when you can do it yourself. Just wait. That's the type of shit they'll think up. This is just getting to me. Are these people getting stupider? Do they not realize all of the burdens they put on housing are going to make it more expensive? And then, you know what? You know what it is. They want to keep people poor and destitute and unable to better their lives. Because sometimes, what they'll do is they'll kick out the bloody bottom rungs of the ladder to spit on the bloody proletarians because they don't want you to lift up. Because they know once you start lifting yourself up, often your political ideology will shift, and all of a sudden you realize the bullshit they were saying, the victim mentality these people were painting you at is complete and utter crap, and then you'll switch and get more sensible ideas, and you'll see how they kept you down. That's what it is. I'm sick of this. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this one. Should we make air conditioning mandatory? I bloody well don't think we should. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can help out. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon, sign up for SelfWealth or Stake, use our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can also buy our merch from HeiseSays, guys. Thank you all for watching, and I will point you to the last video I did about Siri complaining about remote housing developments out in Ipswich, just so you get a picture of who we're dealing with here. Take care. Have a great day. I'll see you all in the next episode of HeiseSays.